I'm Dr. Britt Evans. I'm a postdoctoral fellow here at our practice. Many parents can relate to having a picky eater who tries something one time and says they don't like it, or tried it a long time ago and has made up their mind that they don't like the food. One thing that can be helpful for parents is focusing more on just the act of trying and tasting food and not focusing so much on whether the child actually likes it or not. If a kid does try something new, instead of, oftentimes our first question will be like, oh, did you like it? But instead of that, shifting the language more to be more neutral and open-ended. So like, oh, what did you think? So just shifting away from like or don't like can be helpful in helping a kid kind of be more open and accepting to a new food. Another thing that can be helpful in that is, being careful not to make your kid feel bad or criticized after they try it. So it can be really easy to say something well-meaning that's like, oh, that wasn't so bad, was it? Or see, you actually do like it. And that can kind of make kids feel bad, like they were wrong or embarrassed, or kind of encourage them to double down on the fact that like, no, I don't like it and I don't want it again. If your kid does say, ugh, I don't like it, that's gross, I would also recommend sort of ignoring those comments and focusing more on the fact that they tried the food and that's great. Or you can shift the conversation to ask your child, seems like you don't like it so much this way. Do you want to try it again next time in a different way, right? Like maybe they try a raw carrot and you're like, maybe the raw carrots, maybe you're not a fan of them raw. Next time, do you want to try them cooked or baked? So kind of giving your kids some options, helping with their buy-in, but also you're giving the message, we're going to keep trying it. You can also reinforce for your kid, like, that's okay, you're still getting used to it. Because learning about new foods and expanding our palate is a process. It happens naturally across development. So the fact that a kid tries a food once and doesn't like it is not at all surprising, and we want to encourage continued trying. A lot of research shows that for kids, especially kids who are more picky, they need to try a new food between 6 and 15 times to be even familiar enough with it to be able to kind of decide whether they like it or not, which is a lot of times. And usually parents will present a new food a lot fewer times than that. So the norm is probably closer to like 2 or 3 times, and then a lot of parents will say, well, they're not going to eat it, so we're not going to serve that anymore. So one thing that's really important to keep in mind is even if your kid is rejecting it or say they don't like it, to continue serving and offering the food. And over time, your kid will get more familiar with it and be more willing and open to trying it and potentially, even eating larger quantities of it. So a lot of parents ask me this because if their kid does try something new, they're not sure, like, did I pay attention to that? Did I make a big deal out of it? Because some parents worry that it almost might backfire by giving too much attention, or if their kid's doing something they like, they don't want to rock the boat. But there is research that shows that praise for trying new foods and eating a variety of foods can help increase those foods in a child's diet. And in general, there's lots of research showing that positive attention, positive reinforcement to a specific behavior increases that behavior. So in general, I recommend to parents, if your child does try something new, give them praise for that. You can give them, specific kudos, like, hey, you tried something new, I'm really proud of you. It doesn't have to be a huge over-the-top deal, but that points it out to your kid and lets them know, like, hey, I did something good. It can boost their confidence. And I've seen kids too, kind of over time, with that sort of parental attention and praise, develop more of this identity of like, hey, I'm a kid who can try new things, rather than I'm the picky eater who doesn't like anything new. On the flip side of that too, I think it can be a lot easier to get sucked into the negative behaviors that are frustrating that your kids do, like, you know, when your kid pushes it away or complains about dinner that you spent, you know, the last hour making. And it can be really easy to respond to those things, but kind of, you know, on the flip side of praise, ideally we want to try to ignore those negative behaviors, the complaining, the making faces, all of that, and really hone in on the positive. And if your kid really isn't doing much positive, we want to try to find any little thing that they are doing that you could pay attention to. Like maybe they're not trying the new food on their plate, but they are sitting nicely at the table. So you could ignore the complaints about the green vegetable on their plate, but say like, hey, I'm really proud of you. Love how you're sitting at the dinner table with all of us.